I've been spending the past hours or so, maybe the past 5 or so hours, after waking up from an afternoon nap. That probably occurred because I woke up pretty early. I think last night I fell asleep sometime around 10 p.m. and then woke up at roughly 6:30 a.m. today. So I then fell asleep around 1 p.m. and then woke back up at around 4:30, I would say. Oddly enough, it doesn't seem like I made such a study guide as I'm doing right now for the final, for the midterm. Or if I did, it just wasn't on my computer because the midterm file was some kind of PDF file under the course content. And these are slices from a pizza my dad made using Bobole or Bergoni crust pizza, which is a brand of pizza crust you can get from Wegmans. Plain, except with some standard cheese, so that you can put your own toppings on it. In this case, pepperoni, black olives, and it looks like some mozzarella. I moved into Dad's room. At around noon. And one of the first things I did was to finish up that bag of jelly beans that I hid within a paper bag that also contains a bunch of Sharpie markers. Because I have a hobby of drawing and coloring in styrofoam blocks using Sharpie markers. Now I'm going to have 15 minutes for this final, just like what I had during the midterm. I have at least some extra credit in this class, but it's important that I do as good as possible. And this could very well be the final thing I do in my undergrad college career. Here's where I'm at currently on the Fairy Queen's Garden episodic event. This is the part of a quest that's part of the beginnings of the Orcs and Goblins chapter, which I'm happy to say I just breached into today. In fact, completing this research was actually part of presumably the last fairy quest line. Excuse me, quest. I have no idea what caused me to lose all of those supplies. Maybe it has something to do with the ongoing upgrades of this residence, or the fact that I accepted a whole bunch of wholesaler trades so that I could get thousands of crystal necessary for me to complete that advanced scout research. All I can say is the Orcs and Goblins seem like a pretty interesting race that, up to this point and for a bit longer, I've only really heard of. They seem to like growing mushrooms, the goblins aspect. The Orcs like combat. And the goblins know some magic, based off of what I've heard. Kind of like the fairies, and I think there may be at least some overlap in that they both may know some nature-based magic to an extent. I already have the fairy in, but ooh, I've got a master plan now. And I've got more than enough bronze shovels to execute it. Times 2? Boom. Oh, will really help me to get that last artifact. Now I have a slightly better fairy inn. This squad size upgrade will cause me to get... It'll cost crystal I currently don't have. But it should make me able to get some more province expansions necessary for... That may pretty much be necessary for me to fit in the new very ancient wonders. I went and got some more slices of pizza from the kitchen area in this apartment unit. It's currently around 9:45 p.m. and the plan is to take to quiz at 10. It's open book, but obviously the strategy for that kind of exam is to first answer what you confidently know, which means skipping over the ones you're not sure about so that you can go back to them later and dedicate a bit more time to trying your best to answer them correctly. But remember, an important rule to remember is, when in doubt, don't switch. So when you're not sure about an answer, don't just decide to change that answer. Unless you are sure that the new answer is the correct answer. Because more often than not, your first answer is the correct answer. Ever since my dad did some cleanup operations, the spare room is pretty much the dirtiest room in the apartment. Second only to this one. The spare room is the dirtiest. This room is second dirtiest. Okay, it's got the air conditioning on. I don't know how low. But it's enough to protect us from the summer heat. The thing I did most recently while I was filling out that study guide was to listen to different remixes of Blinding Lights by The Weeknd, which is Weekend without the E. So maybe it's Weekend, The Weekend, something like that. I was looking for a Pacific remix, but I didn't really find it. While taking this final, I'll be listening to Everywhere at the End of Time by the Caretaker. Everywhere at the End of Time. but I'll be doing so by listening to a playlist of the individual tracks. So that B3 track B3 is correct and not replaced by a track from stage 3. So it's around 11 p.m. now, and around 11:15 p.m., and I'm now done with the final for my national security class. I managed to answer all of the questions. It's just I ran out of time a bit on my last short answer question, which resulted in my last intended sentence being grammarly incorrect. Well, those last 2 minutes felt pretty intense. I felt quite a bit of pressure during those last 10 seconds to try and finish my answer to that last question, which I said that one of the main security concerns of the pandemic has been the fact that it's produced increased nationalism, which I gleaned from one of the class readings on the regarding pandemics that I skimmed over before, and I believe while taking the exam. Either way, I'm glad I didn't fall asleep or that I didn't have the guest internet here suddenly shut off. I disabled the Wi-Fi on my laptop. Oh no, not again. Sorry about that. Disable the Wi-Fi on my laptop so that I would have to sign into the guest internet so that the guest internet wouldn't shut off while I was taking the exam.